more than one. It's for a good cause, right? I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a roll call, please.
Present.
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 Counselor Vandal.
Present.
9 present.
Thank you. Consider and accept the council minutes of Monday, October 24th, 2011 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? It's unanimous. Agenda item number 4, subcommittee reports. A, General Government. Councilor Spinelli.
Madam, I have no report. We have a meeting scheduled for the Rice Conference Room tomorrow at 7 p.m.
Thank you, Councilor. B, DPW. Councilor Vandal.
No minutes and no report and no meeting scheduled. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. C, Education and Human Services. Councilor Clements.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have no minutes at this time. However, we do have a meeting scheduled tomorrow evening, 6:30, in the Rice Conference Room.
Thank you, Councilor. So we have a meeting at 6:30 with EHS, and we have a meeting at 7 o'clock with General Government tomorrow evening. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. D, Planning and Development. Councilor Livingood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no report, but we will be scheduling a meeting either for this week or next week, depending.
Thank you, Councilor. E, Protection of Persons and Property. Councilor Langevin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No report, no meeting scheduled at this time.
Thank you. Okay. Agenda item number 5, Chairwoman's announcements. I just really want to take a moment to address an issue that I'm sure is still on a lot of people's minds, and that is the storm that we had last weekend and the ensuing power outage and the havoc that it did cause. Hopefully everybody in town at least has power, if not cable. I understand that we're in pretty good shape now. But I did want to talk just briefly about a few things, and this is not a pat on my own back. I just want the people of Southbridge to know what did transpire. Sunday morning, myself and Councilor Clements went to the Armory, Community Center, and we were met there by Chief Charette, Chief Chesla, DPW workers. There were a handful of residents who had gone into the building because they had no power and no heat. We went out, first thing I did was, town clerk was also there, Maddie Dowse was also there, thank you, Counselor. I signed an executive order so that we could send that off to FEMA because we were definitely in the middle of an emergency. And then Councilor Clements and I went out and picked up some things at the store so we could heat up some soup and give these folks something to eat. It was cold, and they were cold and hungry. We spent the day at the community center. The town manager, unfortunately, was holed up in Southbridge. He could not get out. He had trees in his driveway and down the street, so he had to wait. So we kind of spent the day there with these folks, tried to keep contact with the Red Cross that was at Tantasqua, and that was difficult because the road to Tantasqua was covered with trees and there was only one lane for traffic to go up and down. But we were able to speak with them and kind of keep tabs on what was happening up there. We also were on conference calls with MEMA to find out what was going on in terms of crews coming into Southbridge in the area, what we could expect, what they were expecting. We had a few emergencies. The nursing home was without power and had no generator, which was very disturbing. Fortunately, National Grid was able to procure a generator for them, and by 4:30, around 4:30, 5 o'clock, they had power at the nursing home. I'm going to share this moment with Councilor Clements, because the two of us were working kind of tandem on that day. So if you'd like to add some thoughts.
Yeah, I just want to point out, the Radius was not without power for the day. They had generator power, but it was not for their heating system. So make it very clear that while there was a situation, especially for the heat, for their guests, they did have power, and their staff was working diligently to take good care of them, and they were very, very concerned, working out, setting up the generator with the electricians, and as soon as they knew there was a problem. And there was an alternate plan in place should the generator situation not materialize properly, that there was going to be a plan, there was a plan in place to move some of those residents. But luckily, after 5 o'clock or so, the generator was working, the heat was going, and there didn't have to be any emergency measures taken to relocate any of the patients there. So that was good. State Rep Durant came in also with his wife late in the afternoon. They had been touring the facilities and were concerned with what was going on at ours. Wanted to make sure that we had what we needed. We toured the nursing home facility, and I think it was long about 6, 7 o'clock, somewhere in there, when finally the last guest, we were told by the state, unfortunately, that, to utilize the regionalization facilities, the regionalized shelters facilities, which Tantasco happened to be the one in our area. So they were very strict in letting us know that they were funding those regional shelters at that point. As we know, more opened up as the storm. Unfortunately, the effects of the storm were felt much longer than I think anticipated. So we were not authorized to keep our shelter open in a reimbursement situation from the state. We were encouraged to have those who needed a place to actually stay overnight to go to Tantasco. There was a plan in place, again, by our very qualified police and fire chief and all, to get these people to there. Should there have been anyone who could not get themselves out to Southbridge, there was a plan in place to help those. But luckily, I think everybody got to where they either found relatives, or they found rooms, or they did go to the shelter, and I think about 7 or so, they closed up shop there. And then Mr. Trombley, although many of the town offices were closed on Monday, being that there was power, Mr. Trombley had opted to make sure that the center was open on Monday morning so that things could progress normally, and they could again offer a warm space and keep the routine the same for the seniors and those who felt like coming in. So applaud to him and his staff for doing that on Monday. I think the library was also opened.
The library was open Monday.
Yeah. So again, to the library staff, thank you very much for that, to making sure that people had a place to go, use the internet, stay warm, and just get out of the cold. I think that's it for me.
That's Sunday.
That was Sunday.
And then, as we all know, the power outage remained for a good portion of the week, and the town manager took over. And Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right through the week, the manager was on daily calls every day with National Grid for status updates. We had the National Guard in town working with the DPW. That 3 o'clock on Tuesday, Wednesday, there were conferences, constant storm conferences, calls with MEMA. The Chief Chesler and the town manager took daily ride-arounds to check to see for debris, make sure that the crews were out working to clear roads and connect power. The town manager's office took calls from citizens and followed up with National Grid, keeping them aware of the calls we were receiving, no power, trees were down in areas. I got calls. I know some other councilors also received phone calls from citizens who making us aware of the fact that there were trees down, and we were getting that information to the right people so that they could go out and areas that they had not seen, they were going and taking care of that. The town manager's office was assisting callers with phone numbers, reassuring them to let them know that all that could be done was being done. And I just want to make a couple of points here. Sunday morning, Southbridge had 71% of its citizens without power. every single day that got better, much quicker than most of the other communities. And part of the reason for that was because of the fact that we do have a very good plan in place. Unfortunately, we couldn't do things like reverse 911. You had no power. You would not have gotten that call. We couldn't put a scroll on the cable because the power was out here too. And you didn't have power, so you had no TVs. It was very frustrating, and we did the best we could. I hope that in the future we can do better, but I must tell you that of all of the communities in the area, I think that we did the best. We were on top of it. Communication was key amongst all of the heads of departments that were working on this together. As difficult as it was for the town manager, because he had very little cell phone power, we still kept in contact with the town manager, and we came together. And I just want to say, as one of the people that was there and was witnessing what was going on, that I was very impressed. I know it's small comfort to those of you that had no power for many days, but we did the very best we could. National Grid is National Grid, and while they were here with 2 crews, I want to repeat that, 2 crews, we did have the DPW people working on this with the National Guard every single day. And a lot of those National Guards people are the same people that were here for the tornado in June and wanted to come back to our community to help this community because they felt a connect to our area. I really don't have anything else. I just wanted to make all of that clear. By November 4th, which was Friday, we had gone from 71% of the citizens of Southbridge with no power to 4%. And I'm very pleased with that. The DPW and National Guard cleared 6 miles of roadway in Southbridge, of trees and limbs and branches, so that National Grid could get in and reconnect the power. One of the problems was that National Grid was about 2 days behind DPW and National Guard on some of that. But the biggest thing was the cooperation. And I want to thank the citizens of Southbridge for being reasonable, being durable, and patient. I know some of you did call and were frustrated, but I think we did the very best we could in this situation. And hopefully, if anything like this, God forbid, but if anything like this happens again, and it is New England, so it probably will, we'll be able to be even more ready. That's really all I have. Councilor Clements has something else she wanted to add.
Since we're in the same vein, I just want to point out a couple of details that while Chairman Nicola was going over. One of the things to always be mindful is that we cannot, our DPW and nor the National Guard, can take down any branches or trees or anything that is connected in any way, shape, or form with an electrical wire, even if the wire's you've been told it's off and there's no power. We are not authorized to work and remove limbs around these wires. So if it's hanging over the wire, even though we want to do it and we have the manpower, we cannot. National Grid has to bring their own workers in to remove and fix that situation. So as frustrating as it can be, when you know we have the workers to do it, it cannot be done. It's just a liability issue, and it just can't be done. So that frustration. Also, keep in mind that calling in and calling the town hall, which might make you feel better because you can tell somebody we're still without power, help us. It doesn't help really in the end, because we truly can't put the power back on for you. That's where you should be calling National Grid and giving them a piece of your mind, because they're the ones who are in charge of getting that power back on. And also we have to be mindful that in an emergency, our administrative staff and our administration themselves, our leaders, are busy doing a lot of different things. And all those calls coming in, while we can alleviate some of your frustration perhaps, it takes away their time and energy from really being part of what they need to get done for the rest of the town. The town must continue on even when there's no power. So I'd encourage you, call National Grid when there's a problem like this, and share our frustration with them too. But, and I think the town manager perhaps is going to talk a little bit about some of the issues that we probably had with that. But that's it. Just, we cannot do the things you want us to do sometimes, even if we want to.
I do suggest for anybody out there that's scratching their head trying to figure out what could have been different, one thing that I just picked up one of them, and you may want to too, is get one of those goofy radios. I mean, I tell you, you got to wind the thing, crank the thing up, but it's helpful. It really is helpful, because if there is any way of getting any kind of message to you, that might be the only way that we can in any future emergencies. So you may want to make the investment. They're pretty inexpensive. That's really all I have. I'm going to turn it over to the town manager's announcements. Mr. Clark?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It has been, and I'm not going to perpetuate this too long, but I would not be doing due diligence if I didn't acknowledge some people that made, I think, number one, we did do a good job. Can we do better? We can always do better. But a couple things, I think the world of our police chief, our fire chief, and our DPW director. I had several issues to deal with at my own home. I actually was without power until Saturday night, so we went a full week without power, which, if there's any advice, I am going to look at getting a generator. Because that was a frustrating experience, but I showed up every day to work, and I think did basically all my hours, which was good, as well as my wife. But one of the things that worked is that the police chief and the fire chief, we worked very well with the MEMA folks, the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency. That gentleman was from, what's the town next to me? Holland. He was from Holland, and I know he was without power for probably even longer than anybody. And he came and he checked in on us to make sure that we had the resources we needed. So the MEMA folks are dedicated folks. We did commandeer a gentleman from National Grid. His name is Joe Lombardi, who was excellent, was just very helpful to us. He told us what lines were down, what lines we could clear, and that gave us the opportunity to clear that 6 miles of roadway. Also, on National Grid, there was a gentleman by the name of Steve Bonanno who was assigned to us on day one, and Steve came out and we were able to work very effectively with him. I know that night I left the office on Thursday night at 8:30, and that we were down to 331 units that didn't have power. So to go from 71 to 4% in a fairly short amount of time, I think was good, very good. In Sturbridge and Charlton, Sturbridge was at 52%. So it was an exceptionally frustrating experience to have the manager in a community making progress, living in a community that wasn't making progress. So that was a difficult experience for me. But I just think the world of our department heads, Chief Chesler, just was tireless. One day he had a meeting, another day I had a meeting, and we just flip-flopped and kept each other informed. So I just, it's nice to have a team. I was flattered that the chairwoman called me to let me know that things were well underway as I was getting back and getting reacquainted with cutting trees. When I was a kid, I used to cut trees all the time with my parents. I lived in kind of the country, and it was nice to get back to nature in a way, but I could live with having the electricity on the whole time. So I just wanted to at least acknowledge that. And the National Guard, one of the best moments in this thing was the National Guard crew. Once we got them working, they were working hand in hand with DPW, and the sergeant, I think it was Sergeant Crowley that was assigned to them, came over to me and he said, "You know what, Mr. Clark, this is what I got into this business to do, to help people in a constructive way and do something meaningful." And it was nice that we gave him the opportunity to do that. So, there are people that care a lot, there are people that want to help, and it was nice to see them, and it's nice to be able to work constructively with various layers of government to work all for a common cause, and I think that's why we had the success that we had. I do believe that National Grid, we went from 2 crews to 3 crews to 5 crews to 7 crews. It would have been nice to have the 7 crews on the first day, because we would have made even more progress. So I think National Grid does need to learn a few lessons from this, even in our experience. Enough said in terms of that, from my standpoint. Just in terms of, we were closed on Monday. The reason why we were closed on Monday, because we did not have power to the facility. We did get power later in that morning, and we had staff come in, which I appreciate, to fire up the computers, make sure that everything was operational. So we did reopen on Tuesday. The library did have power, so that's the reason why the library was open on Monday. Believe it or not, we are actually into the holiday schedule here, and we have put forth the schedule of closings just for folks. These are closings due to holiday activity. The first one is going to be this Thursday. Town Hall will be closing at 4 p.m. We have a contractual obligation that when we close on a Friday, we owe additional time to the employees, the unionized employees. So we'll be closing Town Hall at 4 p.m. On this Thursday. Town Hall will be closed this Friday in order to honor the Veterans Day holiday. The library will be open on Thursday from 9 in the morning to 8 p.m. and the library, and also in honor of Veterans Day, will be closed on Friday. And then I can kind of give some of these other updates, but just so people know, on Thursday the 24th, Thanksgiving Day, Town Hall and the library will be closed, and also the day after Thanksgiving, the Town Hall and the library will be closed. I'll make announcements in the December holidays when we get a little bit closer, but just so people can kind of plan accordingly if you do have business with the town, just to be able to plan accordingly with that. I did receive my material from the Casella folks that the Household Hazardous Waste Collection event will be held on December 3rd from 9 to 1 for the household hazardous waste. And that is open to not all residents of Southbridge and Charlton, only at the facility located at 165 Barefoot Road in Southbridge, Mass. If you have any additional information that you need, you're always welcome to contact the Department of Public Health here in Town Hall. Just two other things. I actually went to a meeting today to find out, that was put on by Representative Neal, to find out about our funding for the June 1st tornado. We have processed quite a bit of paperwork. We have submitted quite a bit of paperwork. We've expended quite a bit of funds. Just in terms of the exception of the airport, we spent about $250,000 from that event. We have a request in for about $100,000 that is FEMA related. We received insurance proceeds to date of $80,000, and there was about $70,000 that we were able to have covered by other resources, not town resources, but other resources. And we have not yet seen $1 from FEMA. So Representative Neal asked to have an event with the FEMA folks, and I did express my frustration that they want us to fill out paperwork, they want us to do all this. We do all that, and we have yet to see $1 of reimbursement. The good news is we are looking at about $75,000 just from FEMA in terms of reimbursement, and we have other applications that we will put in that are related to federal highway. As part of the tornado, I also received some correspondence, which I believe I put in the package, from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, Department of Fire Services. This is a letter to Chief Chesler, and it is from the State Fire Marshal, Stephen Cohen. And it reads, it gives me great pleasure to inform you that the Southbridge Fire Department will receive a Fire Marshal's Award at the 2011 Firefighter of the Year Award Ceremony. Your department will be honored along with 8 other departments for outstanding rescue and recovery efforts during the aftermath of the F3 tornado, which touched down in Western Mass on June 1st. On Wednesday, November 30th, 2011, Governor Deval Patrick and I will be honoring, as in the State Fire Marshal, honoring award recipients from across the Commonwealth at a ceremony to be held at 2 p.m. at the Hanover Theater, located on Main Street in Worcester, Mass., in which the award will be formally presented. So I just wanted to let people know that, I think our crews did an outstanding job during the tornado, and I think this is an acknowledgement well-deserved by the chief and by members of the department. And then lastly, I do the best I can in my position, and there are times in which I have quite a bit of judgment calls that have to be made. There was a judgment that I made in regards to the procurement law related to the awarding of a contract for the Green Brown Consulting. A request was made to the Inspector General's office in regards to that. The Inspector General did not agree with my interpretation of the law. I did meet with that contractor. We have terminated that contract. The only rationale for the termination was that we did not complete the bid process. We will complete the bid process, and it is very likely that contractor will be back, but we will complete the bid process, and however that bid process works out. But I have already officially notified the contractor that the contract has been terminated and that he is eligible to apply when we put it out to bid. And that concludes my comments this evening, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Agenda item number 7 is the swearing-in presentation portion of our meetings. Tonight, we are going to have a presentation by 3D building model Christopher Hamill Consigli Construction with an introduction by Scott Lazo from the School Building Committee. Mr. Lazo?
My fellow colleagues, I'm here as chairman of the School Building Needs Committee. What we have is a presentation. Let me just do a little background and overview. As the building committee chairman, I just like to remind the councilors, if you'd like to tour the school at any given time, I'm sure we could set up a tour. But we've been holding tours monthly. This month it's the 19th, November 19th, Saturday at 9 o'clock. You have to go to the superintendent's office and sign up so we know there's enough people to run the tour. What we have in front of you tonight is just another portion of what we do on the site. I know that Town Manager Chris Clark, myself, and Mike Como, we're at the construction meetings every Tuesday. We get to see things that the public doesn't get to see or the council wouldn't get to see. But the thing that you do get to see is the $45,000 change order. And how do we come to the point of the change order? How do we try and prevent change orders? This is what this technology, this 4D technology, is supposed to do. We keep trying to film the school as we tour it so we can get it out into the public. We do presentations with boards. I know town manager, myself, have went to clubs, PTA. If you ever have a group that you want us to go to, we'll go with the boards, do a presentation, Q&A, to further understand what we're doing. We're spending a lot of money on the Hill, and you sign a lot of change orders, and I think this presentation was worthy of bringing it in front of you and to show you some of the technological things that they use to help out. It's called BIM. It's Building Information Modeling. Who we have tonight is John Lamar, the project manager, John of Consigli. And the gentleman that's going to be doing the presentation, it's a short presentation, it's Chris Hamill, the mechanical coordinator. Chris?
Thank you, council members, for giving me this opportunity to sort of to share with you how we're using this new technology to help advance this project, keep it on schedule, and as Scott was saying, minimize change orders and hopefully keep it under budget as well. I will be brief here. I just kind of wanted to give a rundown of how we use this 3D technology to help build the building. So this first thing I'm going to show is something that was developed for us by the architect. This building was designed by Tappe Associates, and they use a program called Revit, which is basically 3D modeling software. And they use this program to help develop the 2D documents and all of the contract documents that we use to build the building. And at the same time, it's used to make this 3D model. He's exported this video for us that just shows a walkthrough of entering the school over by the auditorium area and just sort of highlighting some of the architectural features of the school. And then intermixed in with this 3D model world is also some rendered images. This is one right here showing, what the school is actually going to look like in realistic conditions, which to me, it's pretty impressive. I mean, it looks like a photograph almost, but it's all just coming out of computer software that's showing a building that isn't even there yet. So essentially, we take this model and we convert it to something that's not quite as clean and pretty, but it's, you know, something that we can use to help, use as a tool to help us build the building more efficiently. So we can walk through this model and take a look at any sort of views. We use this weekly in our subcontractor meetings to point out different areas of work. And the superintendent will be in the back of the room with a laser pointer saying, you know, start on this roof up here, and then you can jump down to the next roof after 2 days, and it just sort of, it helps the tradespeople better understand what our schedule is and how to build certain details. You can zoom in and look around and see specific architectural details. And then, of course, you could also go inside the building and look at other features on the interior. And again, this is all just the architect's model that's provided by Tappe Associates at the beginning of the job. And so then, in addition to looking around like that, you can, of course, shut off certain features if we want to shut off the roof. Look inside. We can talk about which walls we're going to build out, which rooms we're going to perform work in, that sort of thing. So what we do is we take this model, the architectural, that's really just showing walls and roofs and other architectural features, and then from the steel erector we add in the 3D steel file. And so this lets us know where all the beams and joists are, so that when we start adding the mechanical systems in later on, we'll know what we need to avoid. And of course, to us, the most important component of this architectural model is these ceiling elevations. I have them sort of see-through, but all of the ceilings here show us what kind of space we have to fit all of the mechanical components in. So then, once we get the subcontractors on board, we use that same model with the steel, and that's just a cutaway at the first floor. The subcontractors supply us with 3D files of each of their systems, and so we can go in and see where all the pipes are running, where all the ductwork is going to be, and we spend a good amount of time going through this and working out where everybody can run. If there's not enough space in a particular area, then we can work with the architects and engineers to try to modify the system or modify the ceiling heights and get something that'll work within the space provided. And this is also, of course, a valuable tool for the folks in the field if they're out there building and they come across a situation they don't understand, or they have a question about where their systems and where their pipes are supposed to be. It's a very good visual tool where they can quickly come and see where they're supposed to go in relation to work that's already up there. And so I think the most important and powerful tool that this software has is a clash detection capability. So sorry, this takes up a good portion of the screen here, but if I wanted to see if there was any interference between these systems, you can set it up to just give you a quick breakdown. This is the fire protection interferences with all the other systems. So you set it to run, and it highlights any place on the screen where you have a conflict. So we can take a screenshot like this and just sort of send it back to the subcontractor and tell them to review each situation and figure out where there's clashes. We can also zoom in on a particular area, turn it back into a regular thing, and just sort of discuss in meetings how we're going to resolve each issue before it's built. So whereas this could have been a difficult issue in the field where the duct's already been manufactured and the fire protection pipe, which is this shown in red here, is already hung in the air. There could be a disagreement, it could be difficult to, it would generate a change order essentially, whereas this software allows us to identify this as a problem ahead of time and make modifications to the system as necessary to fit all the services in the space. And then finally, another piece of the puzzle here is that we're able to link this 3D model to our building schedule. And so we used this video that the BIM software helped us export to sort of show how work was going to progress in the auditorium area. So anything that shows up in green represents work in progress. So this would represent the boards being taped, the drywall boards being taped. And then this green here is scaffolding, which we're going to use to help the trades hang all the services. And it's difficult to see here, but there's a timeline going on at the top. So we can stop and say, okay, this is day 76 of the job, the date's 12/15. This is where everybody's supposed to be with the installation of their services. And it shows, it just shows the progression of work with the staging coming up and the clouds going in, the acoustical clouds, thank you, John, and then the staging coming down so that the tradespeople can see how it's all come together and what the schedule is in this particular area. Any questions?
Questions from the
So-
council at this point?
Thank you again, of course.
Thank you.
As Scott mentioned, if you'd like to come tour the site at any time, I'm out there most days also, and I'm happy to give you more detailed information about what we do. I also passed out, I believe everybody has a copy of a flyer that kind of highlights Consigli's BIM services, not just in 3D, but also, we have the ability to tie it into procurement and scheduling, as you saw, and building information, what we call a 7D model, which has sort of intelligent information of some of the mechanical systems in the building. So I'll also leave copies up front for anybody else who's
Thank you, Mr.
interested.
Hamel. I do have, Councilor Marcucci has a question for you.
Yes,
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you. Very impressive, and thank you for the presentation.
thank you very much.
Are we on time?
We are. We're currently on time and on budget, so. Yes.
Just if I could, I just want to elaborate a little bit. We are on time, we are on budget. We've actually had a pretty good hiatus of having any change orders come in. We're going to have more change orders coming in, so you're going to see $30,000, $40,000 probably on the next, per month for the next several months. We do have contingency. We anticipated that this will happen. So you will, I think actually as early as tomorrow night, we'll be doing the first round, and it will be monthly. But so far, I think we've come quite a good way, and I think that we are very much in a good place. But we will start to see those, and it's typical of a project that even a project with a 1 or 2%, worth of change orders, we're just getting into those levels. This is a $55 million contract, and I believe to date we've only authorized about 50,000 or 45,000. So we are going to work our way towards that 1 or 2%, I'm sure, because it's just going to happen. But we will monitor and definitely let the council know if we think we're going to get into an issue. But I think so far so good, and we anticipate, from the time horizon that we're looking at, that we should be good.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Counselor Vandal has something?
Thank you. Do we have any area designated for solar panels and wind turbines?
I believe
I
that
didn't-
was
I
a
didn't
future
notice
ad,
any.
is that correct?
Actually, the building, we looked at the solar panel piece. The solar panels, I think it was about $150,000 was the estimate to put the chaseways in. So we did not do that. The other thing that's important to remember, solar panels and wind turbines are not included in the MSBA formula. So we are not eligible for reimbursement. What we've said from the get-go, is we do have what they call a green building. It takes advantage, the best way to kind of visualize it is probably two things. One, there's a lot of light, so the building has a lot of windows. Even interior space, they factor in ways to get windows. What that does to help is, and actually this is one of the change orders that we'll talk about tomorrow night, the light fixtures that we have, what they'll have is a sensor on it. So if just, I'm not an electrician here, but if we have 100 lumens that measures light, and the natural light is 50, then the light energy that will be sought is only 50. And as it gets darker in the course of the day, the electricity lights will do more. As you're in midday, and if it's a bright sunny day out, it will do less. So it's features like that we have in the building that makes it, I think, I want to say LEED certified, or a green building is probably the easiest way to say. That it has those features in it, and that's how we have it, where it's going to be more energy efficient, more capturing some of the natural light features that we would have otherwise. But we don't have the solar, and we don't have the wind.
And we're not going to have it?
Quite frankly, no, because it's not part of the MSBA formula, and the money that we've spent, we've had to spend extra in order to do the infrastructure, getting water, sewer, and quite frankly, some of the ball fields in place.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yep. Anybody else have any questions at this point? Mr. Hamel, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on. Wait for Mr. Hamel to... Okay. Agenda item number 8, Citizens Forum. Are there any citizens who wish to come forward? Please state your name and address. Thank you.
Good evening, Wally McKenzie, 45 South Street. I've noticed in the past several meetings, there's been a lot of criticism directed towards the town manager, the town council, and even the town attorney. And I don't know how you all have been able to weather the storm of negative comments without caving in, and perhaps maybe that has been the purpose of the negative comments, that you would cave in. I myself want to commend the town manager, this council, and our attorney for the dedicated service that you have presented to this community. I found out today that you're not salaried, you don't get any money. This sounds to me like a volunteer job. And I don't understand why you would want to submit to this kind of difficult situation. I couldn't do it. I'm not a political individual, I'm not a political man. I never will be. But I take my hat off to all of you, all 9 of you. I find you all to be quite, I don't think the town deserves any one of you if they're going to continue to be negative. I think that it's important that they have this open forum, that people can come up with their opinions, with their thoughts, even complaints. But I believe that we need to realize that you are our elected officials. We put you in this spot. We put you in this job. We need to support you. We need to back you. We need to come alongside of you. It can't be a divided town. And that's what I'm seeing. And I love Southbridge. I've only been here for 3 years. I think last time I got up here, I said I was here for 2 years. So happy anniversary. But I think it's important for all the people who have elected you and have put you into position to phone you, send you emails, send you cards, come up here like me, and tell you how much we appreciate you, all 9 of you. Not 7, not 5, not 4, all 9 of you. Because you're all doing a class act. You're all doing a class job. And I think that if people have a complaint, and I probably someday will have a complaint with you, I need to remember to come up here with respect for who you are, that you're officials, respect your position, not make it personal, and have a decorum of honor towards our town people. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other citizens who wish to come forward this evening?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Larry Bynum, 79 Dennison Hill Road. I have heard that the Department of Public Works and their employees are going to be picking up branches and limbs that are placed at curbside of individual properties of the taxpayers of this town. Is that true? Is that happening?
Mr. Clark?
It is our intent, as we did with the tornado, we will allocate some resources to doing pickup. So yes, we're going to do it. I would ask, like we did with the tornado, for people to have some patience. We will get to as much as we can get to in terms of being able to pick up. But we probably won't be able to clear it all overnight, and it is going to take an extended period, as you can imagine, to clean up throughout the community.
Yeah. When would the cleanup start?
It really hasn't ever stopped, to be perfectly honest, but we do have one chipper, so we will go, and we have a lot of miles of roadway that got affected. So what we will do, I have a staff meeting tomorrow specifically to discuss some of these issues, so we will lay out a plan for how we will go around and pick up certain areas.
Okay. So it will happen in this town?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else wish to come forward?
Just, Madam Chair, if I could, I probably said that a little bit too quickly. We want to pick up trees and branches that are close to the side of the road. Please, please, please don't take all your debris from your entire yard and drag it out front, because we will not have the resources to clear individual yards.
No, these are tree branches and limbs.
If they're by the road, we will pick them up.
Curbside, yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to make that comment, just because I know in my own case, I mean, I have several trees in the backyard I've already cut down, and I'm having that done privately. So if you have debris in your backyard, I would ask that you have it done privately as well. That's all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Debbie Gregoire Lefebvre, 3 Violet Avenue. I just wanted to ask if maybe the chief perhaps could elaborate on it. I think it was wonderful that Monday and Tuesday they used the fire alarm to indicate there was no school, because sometimes that is used and sometimes it isn't, and I think it was very helpful because a lot of people didn't have power. They had no way to check the internet or the phone system if they had charter for phone, and also the cable access scroll, or even just looking on the local television stations for the closings or delays. Is there a possible way that we could create some other kind of code? Let's say, for example, that would say state of emergency for the town or something, some other codes that maybe would help to alert the citizens of something. We would just have to obviously tell the citizens what the codes are and what they stand for, but I didn't know if maybe that was something that could perhaps be looked into.
Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The town has, after the tornado, we have secured an AM radio station or AM frequency. So we will broadcast. We need to get ourselves organized. We just literally got the approval not too long ago. So we will put that together, and we will give people and advertise, let people know that in an emergency, please go to an AM dial, and we will be able to get messages out. So it's actually the health director that was instrumental in getting that frequency for us. So we do have that capability now, and we will bring that closer to fruition, so we'll be able to broadcast and let people know in an emergency. Most people will have at least a radio, And that was kind of the rationale that we used, was to have the AM band to do that.
And also just an update on our trash removal situation that I had mentioned a couple of weeks ago. The past 2 Fridays, we've had the trash can upright, but the cover's still not on it. So I just thought I'd mention that, even though it's not utterly important compared to whatever else is going on in town right now, but just an update. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lefebvre. Do we have any other citizens wishing to come forward?
John Pulaski, Genesis Street. I'm only up here because of the comments being made by a speaker earlier in Citizens Forum. The criticisms of the councilors recently, and the town manager and the town attorney, were not directed at anyone's personality. I've had the privilege of having a one-on-one conversation with each and every one of you, especially Mr. Caprera from years ago. I really like him. I liked him up at Cohasset. None of the criticisms were specific or personal. While they were specific in that, what was done to the member of the Board of Health recently, with claims that she misled the council,
Thanks, Wally.
that investigations were done by the police, that she had done something wrong, where it turned out the investigations hadn't happened, that there was some sort of forethought or some type of trickery. They were proven with video from the meetings on the night that you appointed her that the allegations made when she was recently removed were not true, that she very clearly explained exactly the situation that the judge was going to have to make a judgment in the future. That is what the criticisms have been about. The politics to remove a person that's trying to do her job. And also, I know the town hall had electricity Tuesday. I know some people in town had electricity. It would have been nice to have had the cable scroll and to have used that. Maybe the equipment burned out. I don't know.
Excuse me, we didn't have cable until today.
Charter was out.
There was somebody who used to work here that probably could have gotten cable here.
Charter was
Days
out,
ago.
Mr. Pulaski.
Charter? I never lost charter the whole time.
Sir, that would be you, but there are some people in this
Well, I'm
community
saying the
that
people-
did. As a
some
matter of
people
fact,
in
there are
town-
some people on this council that
Some
still
people
don't
didn't
have charter cable.
Some people did. Just because 100% of the people don't have it doesn't mean that even 1% or 4% or 40% could benefit from it.
Okay, okay.
And if we
Is
had
there-
an
is
electric
there-
company, like I suggested a few years ago, people in Shrewsbury, I heard you, Mr. Town Manager, you don't like criticism, but you were on Boston Radio complaining about National Grid. National Grid had brought in hundreds, if not thousands, of trucks from outside the area. Don't complain that you're being, have people coming up here to complain you're being criticized. I saw you on a Boston television station criticizing a local clergyman after the tornado, saying he's over his head, when sometimes perhaps you may be as well. So that's all I'm saying. No one's putting you people down saying you're evil or devils or anything of that nature.
Okay.
But when you get on Boston TV,
Okay.
that doesn't reflect well on the community, that with town managers criticizing utility and criticizing our clergy. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Is there anybody else who has anything further to add? Anybody else? Citizens Forum? Moving right along, Councilors Forum. Councilor Regis?
I have nothing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Marcucci?
I'm all set. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Vandal?
I just want to let the people know that if you had Charter TV or Charter Internet and your line was disrupted and you didn't have it for so many days, how many days you didn't have it, you can get a rebate. You just have to tell Charter, call Charter and tell them about it, and they'll give you a rebate for up to as many days as you didn't have it, and most people don't know that. That's number one. Number two, Lebanon Hill project isn't done, and some of the lawns are like 1 foot to 1.5 foot higher than the road. Are they going to come in and blend it to the berm?
Yes, actually, some of the paving, I want to be careful, I don't know if it was the final paving or not. Some of the paving was done Thursday, The snowstorm, quite honestly, kind of delayed our schedule, but they are going to continue to do work.
But they are gonna fix everybody's
Yes.
property?
Yes.
And blend it in with, with
Yes.
the lawns, okay. The railroad tracks are still by the Golden Greek, and I found some more railroad tracks that need to be removed on Hook Street. These are just a pain in the butt, all right, for the people, and you drive over them and your whole car shakes. There's no need for it because we're not gonna see the railroad return to Southbridge, so can we get on that,
Just, you've brought this up before, and I want to make
Right.
sure I have it correct. Are you talking about, that we had stacked up rail that we were clearing, but to my knowledge, that's all gone? You're talking about the tracks actually in the roadway
The
itself?
tracks in the roadway.
Okay.
They're all at different elevations.
We do have grant money, and we will look at the cost of doing that, but the grant only will go so far, but we will look at that, Conrad.
Okay.
Councilman Vandal.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Counselor. Counselor McDonald?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I have one question through you to the manager. What, if anything, has been done in regard to the issues brought forth by Ken O'Brien relative to the bylaws, Section 1.111, that he had turned over to Mr. Capera and was awaiting a response? Do you have an update on that, sir, please?
I'll have to meet with Attorney Caprera and find out an update. I don't know off the top of my head. The last week has been obviously a busy week.
Yep.
But I will look into that. I did try to schedule some time with him to kind of get back up to speed on things, so I will check on that.
Fair enough. Thank you very much, Mr. Manager. And lastly, I just want to express my thanks and appreciation to the police, the fire, the DPW, the town hall employees, everybody who worked tremendously hard in the response and recovery aspects of the recent storm. It's unfortunate that we're getting to be so good at this because, it means that somebody's hurting or suffering somewhere. But our first responders and the recovery efforts that have been put forth by the town hall employees have been just fantastic. Many of them working beyond their normal hours, mandatory overtime, obviously, because of the situation at hand. And so we're very fortunate to be in such good, capable hands of the people that work for this town. So I just wanted to say thank you for your response and your efforts. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I have.
Thanks, Counselor. Counselor Livingood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with Councilor McDonald, everybody who had something to do with getting this town back on its feet this week. Kudos to them. They show what we're made of. And one other thing, I heard the manager in Worcester and some other towns are talking about getting together to meet with the Public Utilities Commission about the lack of response from National Grid, and I just wondered if you were going to try to get involved in that.
Yeah, we certainly can. We're looking at doing after-action reports. Actually, the FEMA official that I saw today, I encouraged him that we need to do that. And also, I have already mentioned to the National Grid folks that we should have a conversation, because I think there are certain things that we could do. The big thing really was having people on the ground would be helpful to us, because we obviously had an employee who passed away from one of these events that we had, so we have a heightened sensitivity to not touching down power lines. And one of the things that I learned throughout this is you really don't want to go anywhere near any of these power lines. It's kind of scary talking to these folks unless we get someone with some clearance that tells us, yes, these are dead, and yes, you can work on them. But yeah, I will reach out and see what avenues are available to us, as well as the emergency management director, to see if we can get some comments into them.
Right, I'm just saying, it's not against the people who National Grid who do the work, but a lot of it had to do with their management not ramping up, knowing that something was going to happen or possibly happen, and it was like, it hit them like a surprise. And it seemed like, our DPW and everybody else was ready for it, so, things happen, and you know what's coming, you try to prepare. Thank you, that's all I have, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Spinelli?
I have a couple issues. On Old Breakneck Road, going up to where the reservoirs are, there seems to be an inordinate amount of shrubs, brush, or something. It looks like somebody has been logging up there or doing something, and to me, on the side of the road, there seems to be a lot of smaller branches, shrubs, brush, whatever that needs to be cleaned up. or it's my assumption that that's what it is, caused by login. So I would just, if I'm wrong, but if somebody would just take a look at that and see, because,
I mean, that is one of the roads, during the situation, we actually came fairly close to our water treatment plant, which is at the end, was without electricity for an extended period. We did make that a priority with National Grid, and they did respond. But the reason why was there was quite a bit of
that
tree,
could very
quite a
well
bit of
be
tree
it,
damage.
and if it
on
is, no problem with that whatsoever.
We will look, though. We will look.
An observation by neighbors. Secondly, for people, just to follow up on a comment that was made about getting a hold of Charter, I think if anybody has been aware of it, Charter has an automated system where they answer the phones and they do through all of this routine. And you have to pick out a menu and you have to say this and that and how can they service you and everything else. One of the keys to getting through to a live individual, of course, is when they say something to you like, would you like to speak to an agent? And you say yes. Don't ignore that prompt, because that's the prompt that gets you to a live individual. Albeit the individual could be in Florida or Texas or someplace else, they'll at least make a note and they will certainly try to help you at that point. Especially if you're looking for rebates or anything else, you're not going to be speaking to someone over here. You're going to call on your bill the 1-800 number. And I can only speak from experience because I ran into that situation this week and I'm still involved in trying to resolve some of this problem here. I would like to thank the DPW and everyone, and to make an apology for a faux pas that I made when the chief and the police chief and the town manager were out in front of my house over there looking down at Brentwood Drive, and they were doing some work, and I, in my chivalrous state, came out and offered to make some coffee, except when I got back in and I was telling my wife what a nice guy I was and trying to impress her, she said, listen, fool, we don't have any electricity. How are you going to make the coffee? And I said, being the good scout leader that I am, I will go out and fire up the grill and I'll make some coffee like I used to. I thought was a great response, but she was absolutely right. So I'm very fortunate that nobody took me up on my offer, because I really would have looked like the old Italian fool at that point. But I could have recuperated and brought out a bottle of wine or something else and tried to salvage my dignity at that point. Seriously, all the people that worked, they just did a tremendous job. And driving around, I was just amazed at the work at the DPW and our own employees, and boy, I'm really proud of them. I would hope that property owners would also get out there and do some clearing, because there are shrubs and small trees that are still leaning close to the road and impede, certainly shrink down the width of the road considerably, and if those people could get out there and prune some of those trees that are leaning over enough so that we had the perpendicular so that the roadway stays the same distance all the way along, it would certainly be helpful. But to all those people that have called and asked and expressed gratitude for those people, I certainly agree. The DPW, the fire, the police, manners galore, polite galore, and just did a wonderful job, and kudos to all of those. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Landry. Bob, do you have something to add to the charter piece?
I do, actually, yes.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, Mr. Pulaski, I managed to get a hold of Tom Cohen, Government Relations, on Friday, and I managed to speak with him. I gave my cell phone number to the text, but they never called me up. So I'm assuming today it was actually taken care of. I just want to be clear that when people say charter is out, there's two different things. Our access channels were completely different from that of regular channels. So you can get your regular, HBO or, your local channels, ABC, CBS, but access runs on a different line. And if those lines are down, there's really nothing here at the studio. We are operational. I had programming going out. I came up here and I saw it happening, and I had programming going out, which is kind of too bad, because if there's an emergency bulletin that goes on, people in town can't see it. Please remember, we're working on a volunteer basis here. I tried the best I could to get done. So luckily I have a number now, so if I need to call someone in the near future, we have it. And just wanted to clarify that it's not really, with the help of getting a number from, Chris's, Mr. Clark's secretary, was able to get it done. So just working on it, and managed to get it back on today in time for the meeting, because I'm sure if this did not go live tonight, there would be a lot of complaints. So just wanted to clarify that is the reason why we have been down, but luckily we're back up. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. Councilor Landry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to echo my fellow councilors, I do agree we are very fortunate to have the people in this community working for the town, and they've been challenged this year over and over again, and I can't say enough about our police, fire, DPW, the National Guard coming in. We are fortunate to have loyal town hall people to work, come in, help. I guess the only thing probably to critique, and it's easy to sit on the sidelines and critique, and we all learn, as we said, and we can always get better, is when something like this does happen and your communications are all down, I would ask maybe in the future if we could put that emergency bulletin board that we have down on Main Street. People are still getting around a little and put an emergency number scrolling, because I'm sure that's on power, battery.
It's on battery, yeah.
It's on
That
battery.
a number that they can call, at least, or this is where the shelter is now. It's in Tantascwa with an emergency number or something like that. But again, that's something that you guys are gonna sit back and study it all and get it done. I can't say enough. Everything was top notch, and I thank you.
Just one thing in regards to that, and this sounds maybe a little bit funny, but, the police department was inundated with calls about Halloween. So we actually did deploy the signboard for the purposes of telling people when Halloween was, to try to slow down the calls into the station. So in a inadvertent way, we did use it, but we probably should have switched that to the Tantascwa shelter, and that is a good comment. Thank you.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Clements?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of things. One, actually, we did talk about that right on Sunday. The sign recommended, they were very concerned about people trying to go out for trick-or-treat. Not so much as when it was going to happen, but when it was not going to happen. It was really imperative to get the word out that people should not be out on the dark streets with the wires down in the trees and all. So that was important. But we talked about using both. We talked about putting the shelter information up there. And just to clarify, there was a reverse 911 that went out that Sunday night. I remember when the chief said, I'm going to make the call that the shelter is at Tantascwa. Now, as we've said, some people have charter, so you have no phone. Some people have regular landlines still. Imagine that. I think in this community, a lot of people have them. But unfortunately, a lot of them probably have wireless phones, cordless phones, where you're plugged into the electrical outlet and then your phone doesn't work. I encourage everyone to find one of those $6, $7, whatever they are. I know they're less than 10. Go to a yard sale, whatever. Find a regular plug-in phone. Just keep it in your house, and when you have an emergency like this, if you have a regular landline, you're able to plug that phone in and it will work for you. So you will get that reverse 911, it will come in, emergency messages will get to you and your family. I think it's very important that everybody, especially the elderly and those with children, make that investment if you can. You can probably use somewhere, they seem to work forever. We're lucky we have one in our garage that I unplugged and put in the kitchen. And then I would take it upstairs and plug it in that jack just in case the kids, my son's in school in Worcester, and keep the phone by the bed, Mom. I want you want to know if we're going to have school. Well, he had school. The phone did not ring for his school, unfortunately. So that's one of the suggestions, is to make sure you do have that. And again, I applaud Chief Chesler for all he did with that. I also want to thank the restaurants and the gas stations and all the businesses who came and stayed open, those who had power were able to open. But a lot of those people who worked at those businesses perhaps did not have power at their homes, and they made an effort to come and work extra long. I know a lot of people talked about the Dunkin' Donuts lines and the gas lines, and as you know, a lot of gas stations couldn't open, and that was a big concern around the state. That was a big concern for MEMA in those conference calls we listened in on daily, that there was not enough fuel, that our municipalities would run out of fuel because they couldn't get a fuel delivery. So I want to applaud not only those who cleared the streets and all, but those who stayed open and served a purpose and fed the people, because as you know, a lot of these people just didn't have anywhere to go and get a good meal, and there were a number of restaurants that went out of their way to make sure that everybody was taken care of, and I applaud them for doing that. One man's famine is another man's feast and all that. I'm sure it was helpful, but on the same token, the fact that they were able to get in and keep their businesses open so that others, hotels especially too. I'm sure you heard about that, not having enough lodging even for the National Guard workers, the National Grid workers. So everybody was at their peak. And I just want to point that out and thank those hard workers that came in and kept that together. The other comment, one other comment, listening into on those daily MEMA calls, which came at 3 o'clock, they didn't come at 3 o'clock. If you had the ability to, you could dial in and you could listen in on what was going on throughout the state. The first day on Sunday we listened in, it was very interesting to hear, 775,000 homes in Massachusetts without power. And then on Monday, we were down to 500 and something thousand homes, and then it continued. I listened in for a few days. One of the things that was brought up here tonight, Mr. Bynum brought up about brush, and unfortunately, like the tornado, which we didn't like the answers, you didn't like the answers you got in terms of brush removal and all that good stuff. One thing that was really clear that MEMA said to us, I wish we could have recorded it and played it for everybody as we listened to it, they continually said each day, you are in a cut and push mode. Cut and push being, there are no funds, we have to keep track of our hours, hopefully get reimbursed for the extra time through the President's declaration, all that good stuff, but there's a limit to what they'll reimburse you for. You have to monitor your cutting and your removing and your pushing and your debris removal, only debris removal that's blocking a road perhaps, but even then, they don't want you removing it, they want you cutting and pushing it to the side of the road. So while they're not willing to reimburse us for all that extra. So when you have the DPW taking that brush and doing all that good work for us, it's at an expense to the town. It's in our town hours. So we have to try to find the time and the money to do that. The government, MEMA, is not paying us for brush removal. So they're not reimbursing us for brush removal. And I just kind of wanted to point that out because when that was said in the conference call the first time, it reminded me so much of what happened with the tornado and how sad it is that we can't help more sometimes the community that needs it most. But cut and push was their term, and I was surprised when I heard that. So just pointing that out to everybody. And the only other thing I want to end on a good note, all this was very good, is Saturday night I had the opportunity to go down to the Common, where the Cub Scouts and the Boy Scouts, under the leadership of Mr. Caprera, our town attorney, who's a Cub leader, Cub master, I'm not exactly sure his title officially, but they held their overnight camping and a flag retiring ceremony, and they've done this every year, and it was really nice. Councilor Marcucci and Councilor Langevin and Councilor McDonald, who actually took part in the ceremony, being a vet, was there also, and it was a great opportunity to see the youth of the community being so respectful to our veterans, coming up here for Veterans Day and really respecting our flag and our country. It was very moving. There were some great stories, and then there was a wonderful ceremony with retiring the flag, all done very, very respectfully, and I want to applaud them. And they stayed out. The Boy Scouts were allowed to sleep out that night in the 21-degree weather, I was told, and they did survive. I saw them the next day. They were still moving, pliable, a little stiff perhaps. So I just commend everybody. I commend the town for allowing them to continue that practice on the Common, and I encourage next year, if you hear about this, stop on in. It was a wonderful ceremony. They do it every year, and it certainly shows a lot of respect for those who've served our country. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Counselor. You want to give us next meeting date, please?
If it pleases all, Monday, November 21st, 2011, 7 p.m. here in Council Chambers.
Thank you. Okay. And adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Good night.